Well, the beautiful thing about making movies is that it's always about emotion. That always comes first. And even though the facts are interesting, the facts are fascinating, and they're part of our history, none of it really comes together unless it's sewn together with characters and their emotional lives together. She's this crazy ball of contradictions. She's somebody who is very measured and can be very tough and very to the point and kind of brutal in her analysis, and yet she's incredibly warm, and you really feel that through all of these years of spending all of this time with Mohamedou, obviously, pleading his case and defending him and spending years and years and years really just sitting in his cell with him while, on the elliptical or watching television, that she really came to love him. And when you see them together, as I've been able to do this week while we've been shooting, it's such a special thing to see Mohamedou and Nancy together, this, older woman who feels, very maternal towards this guy, and you can just see the twinkle in both of their eyes. I think they really care about one another. Mohamedou and Mohamedou's story has a lot to teach us about humility, about humanity, I think, but also about forgiveness and about the human spirit. He's somebody who has lived a life that none of us could imagine, survived a cruelty that we could never imagine, ripped out of his home, abducted from his home, and taken to a prison, and many prisons, tortured, feeling like he probably would never leave there. And yet, he loves this world, he loves this life, has had to have a real understanding of his, the people that imprisoned him,
Right.
And I think he says he has become a writer. In some ways, his path was open to him. What this experience, this terrible, terrifying experience, in some ways revealed to him who he really was. And he really is a writer, something that maybe he didn't know before. I think he thought he was, a technical guy who did computers. And here he is, a guy who ended up being a writer, and, not just about his journey, but also poetry, and also a kind of psychological path. I think that he's an amazing teacher about the human spirit. I just love how his mind works. I think he's really curious and inquisitive, and I've been really amazed by this shoot to see how the documentary spirit really works, that it really does work by instinct, that
Right.
he really believes that the way that you approach making films is that you don't try to control it or shape it, that you spend your time noticing. You're in the space, you see the characters, and then you notice what's happening, and then you make sure that you capture that. I think that really works for this film. I think that it gives this film a really interesting tone. I think we really want to get it right. We want to be fair to all of the parties because, and I really believe in this, I think that the truest stories are the ones where there just aren't any bad guys. Where it's just human beings that come together and they're trying to do the best that they can, but they're guided by fear. And I think if there is a lesson in this story, is that, that impulse, that fear impulse, is so strong. And unfortunately, in the era of Guantanamo, the era of 9/11, it took over the American psyche. We were making decisions, we were making international foreign policy decisions by fear, instead of using the laws and the rules that we knew, that we held dear to. The law is something that I'm really interested in, how it works and the intricacies of it, and how our country is shaped by that, how the world is shaped by that. If there was anything that made me believe in democracy and the rule of law, it's been making this film. I think this film really drives that home, that it's the most important thing that we have. And it's our humanity, really.
アメリカ同時多発テロの容疑で収監された男。
We wish to represent you.
3 years, they charged me with nothing. I am innocent.
But if we miss something, this guy goes home.
不当な拘束を受けアメリカを訴える
It's all redacted.
This is what it must feel like of a conspiracy.
You need to tell me what happened to you. I can't defend you.
暴かれたアメリカの闇とはモーリタニアン黒塗りの記録